You're listening to the Adventure Sports Podcast. We talk with adventurers from around the globe to bring you the inspiration and motivation you need to get started in the outdoors or to keep you moving if you're already there. Now here's your host, Kurt Linville.
Hey friends, in all my 14er climbing, I've been so impressed when I see someone go running past me. You're up above tree line, the air is thin, you're gasping to take 10 steps in a row without a break, and here goes a runner, straight up the mountain. I think it's amazing. Today's guest is Sydney Petersen, and she is on the U.S. team for mountain running. But before we dive into the interview, I want to share something with you, and Sydney grew up in this valley, so I think she'll understand. But anyway, here's something different to start off today's episode. I woke in the deep darkness, as I do always, except for during the months hugging the warm solstice. I dressed quietly in the blackness, marveling at the skills of those without sight. I don't want to wake in. The doorknob rattles just a little as I hold my breath. Slowly, or perhaps I should say pole, pole. I pull the door tightly against the jamb, then I exhale. Off to the east, through the large windows, I see a splash of gray on the charcoal canvas, with a pinhole worshiping the dawn. That pinhole is probably Venus, though I've not tracked the wanderers for a few weeks. It could be Sirius for all I know. Funny how when Jupiter is full and Venus is crescent, the king claims the lady's glory. It could be Jupiter. Things must be done. I do them for me, but I also do them because I love my boys and wife. They usually don't know how they motivate me. It's my secret. I slip on leather gloves and oversized snow boots. The digital readout on the thermometer says -0. I wonder if that's a number in China. As the black shifts to indigo over the white snow, I know the temperature will drop a few more degrees. It always does as Seoul chases a cool mass down from the eastern slopes. Not too cold for this mountain valley, but plenty cold. I crunch on Sunday's snow remains as I cross the deck. Luke shoveled, but the crunch is still waiting on the sun's warm kiss to sublimate. The deck is on the northwest side of the house, so it will have to wait for late afternoon's light. There's snow pillowed on the stacked wood. It's a little crunchy too, sticking to the bark. I don't want to bang it off because the family is sleeping, so I pile the top layers to the side and select some dry pieces from underneath. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Back to the front door. That will wake Ann. Nothing I can do about it, though. Soon our little stove is whooshing and glowing. The hole in the velvet canvas does not look quite so proud now. The indigo is changing to washed-out gray. I let the dogs back in. They don't know what -0 means either, but they know December's morning bite. I like coffee, but coffee rages inside me and closes my throat. Not sure why. So I steep loose-leaf black tea in a tiny chrome filter. I don't like tea much, but I adore a hot, rich morning sipper. Why am I sharing this? I'm going to blame it on Hemingway. My brother-in-law's wife gave me the book when she heard that I was returning to Africa in a few weeks. Is my brother-in-law's wife my sister-in-law-in-law? I don't know how that works either. The copyright on the book is 1935. My mother-in-law was born only 3 years later. Hemingway is neither politically correct, environmentally correct, nor woke, and he was not pressured to be so. He lived in different times when masculinity mattered more than propriety to most. Reading his prose is time travel. The world's population has quadrupled since he wrote The Green Hills of Africa. More people requires more care for the land and the animals, but I don't think that Hemingway would agree with our times. But wow, can he turn a phrase. I thoughtfully plod through a few more pages before jumping up to pursue the day. But today is Tuesday, and I get to meet and interview some more wonderful people today. So I'm happy. Speaking of happiness, here are a few lines from Hemingway. I had no wish to share this life with anyone who was not there, only to live it, being completely happy and quite tired. I knew that I was shooting well, and I had that feeling of well-being and confidence that is so much more pleasant to have than to hear about. I do hope that your happiness today is something that's so much better to have than to hear about. Hey, let me know in the comments if this little silly intro is something you enjoyed, or if it's something you'd rather not have to put up with. Speaking of putting up with things, we're running a couple of ads right now, and that's what keeps the show alive. But I've been a little concerned because they're just too long. But that is what was presented to us, and so my apologies. Go ahead and skip them if you've already heard them. You know what it's all about. But I'm going to try in the future to keep ads shorter. We'll see what we can do. Today's episode is really super cool. I've been wanting to do an episode like this for years, actually, and finally met the right person. Let me rewind a little bit. You probably know that I've climbed a lot of 14ers, and every now and then on a 14er, I see someone that's running up the mountain, and I can tell you I've run on 14ers, I've run down 14ers, but I have never managed to be fit enough to actually run up a 14er. But then I find out, not only have I seen people doing this, but there is a U.S. mountain running team that competes internationally, and I have with us today a member of the U.S. mountain running team, Sydney Petersen, who just got back from representing the United States in Spain in the World Championships. Mountain running, maybe a lot of you already know about this sport, but I am very ignorant about it, so I am super excited to visit with Sydney. Sydney, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be on your podcast.
This is going to be fun, Sydney. So I actually met Sydney in person, and that's how I found out what she did, and I talked her into coming onto the podcast, and I really appreciate you, Sydney, for being willing to do it. But mountain running is something that you see, but I don't know how many people know much about it, and the people that I see doing it are just super, super fit. It's one of the hardest things that I've ever seen accomplished. And a lot of that has to do with the steepness, of course, of the grade, but also the altitude. You combine those two things with long distances and difficult trails, this is like the pinnacle of running in my mind. So, Sydney, tell us about the U.S. mountain running team. What is this sport?
So, I think mountain running, trail running, sky running, there's so many different names for it, but that make it sound, I guess, more complicated. But in the most basic definition, it's just running on trails, up mountains, down mountains, just different from, I guess, the more traditional or more mainstream running that you see on the tracks or on the roads. And it can be a race distance from like 3 kilometers up through 100, 200 miles. I don't do that, but there's a lot of different, I guess, factions of this sport, but in its broad definition, running up and down mountains. A little bit faster, a lot slower, but yeah.
Well, it's an amazing thing. How did you get into this? What was your first mountain and why?
I was lucky enough to be raised in Crested Butte, Colorado. So for those of you who don't know where that is, it's kind of in the Rocky Mountains, very, very small town at the end of the road. So had a background very much in the mountains, grew up in a ski family. My parents are big skiers, and I was on skis at like 2 years old. So I think probably my mountain running career started there. And I grew up playing team sports and got into running track and cross country in high school. I ran Division I track and cross country in college. And so I think that kind of gave me my multi-sport background combined with competing in track and cross country at the Division I level gave me a unique fitness to run up mountains, but also the athleticism from all the other sports I've played to have the agility to run downhill and skip over rocks and all of that. I finished my track and cross country career at Colorado State in the spring of 2023 and got a normal job and then just missed running. I had like been exposed to the mountain and trail running scene, just going out with my mom. She's a big runner. I remember when I was like 13, 14 years old, we'd run from Crested Butte to Aspen together over West Maroon Pass, and it was kind of a family thing. And then after I graduated college, I naturally gravitated back towards that, back towards the mountains. Signed up for the Imogene Pass Run. And for people who aren't familiar with that, that's a mountain and trail race that goes from Ouray to Telluride in the San Juans. And that's something my mom and I had always wanted to do. And I guess that was like my first competitive mountain and trail race, and had been on my bucket list for a while and wanted to target it after I'd graduated college. And doing that race with family, but also, I guess, by myself, it was like a spiritual experience. And I realized I was really good at it, but also just, I don't know, when you're moving in the mountains with 1,000 other people doing the exact same thing, you don't know what people are going through, but just racing and moving collectively in a really beautiful place with other people, like it's a really cool experience that can give you a lot of gratitude and just unique perspective on life. So that was my first competitive mountain and trail race. And then I slowly kind of got the bug and started going to more races, and eventually found my way onto the U.S. mountain running team to represent Team USA at the World Championships. This summer was the qualifying race, and this fall was the actual race at World Championships in the uphill event. So
you mentioned the uphill event. There are multiple events, right, with the mountain running circuit, but you do the uphill?
Yes. So the uphill race, it's also called a vertical kilometer. You're only running uphill. It's pretty short distance, anywhere between like 3K and 6K, 8K. Every race distance is a little bit different, but you're ascending over 3,000 vertical feet. The course at Worlds was about 6 kilometers and just over 3,000 feet, just uphill. So
fairly steep trail.
Yeah.
And what is the altitude?
It really depends on where you're racing. In Confranc, Spain, where the World Championships were held, I think the course started at around 3,000 feet. But the qualifying race I ran, which was also an uphill race, was in Tahoe at Palisades Tahoe Ski Resort. And I mean, you're starting at like almost 8,000 feet and going up to almost 12,000 feet. So, which is more the territory I'm used to running. So the altitude and just redlining when you're running up that steep grade, it adds a total different element to the race than it does at 3,000 feet. If it starts at like 3,000 feet. So.
Wow. A lot of our listeners are probably saying, that just sounds painful. I don't know why people would do this. So you're going to have to sell us a little bit, Sydney. Why do you do it? I mean, it's an amazing feat to be able to run at altitude up steep things for distances like this. But sell us on this.
There's a few different things. I mean, I think first and foremost, it's just you're running in a beautiful place. Like no matter how much pain you're in, or how bad your legs are burning, or how bad your lungs are burning, you're just in a beautiful place, and you can't forget to look up and just like see where you are. And that's one of my favorite things, is just seeing beautiful things, experiencing beautiful places. The second is I love the process of pushing myself and like achieving things that I didn't think I could do. And I think physically pushing yourself is a cool way to practice that skill, and it's such a good life skill to have. And then when life actually gets really hard in like real life, and you're dealing with like complex emotional, mental situations that may arise, like you have already sharpened that skill and have that skill from running and pushing your body physically. And I think the person I've become in the process of pushing myself physically in the mountains is something I'm really proud of. I think the final thing is, yes, you're racing and on the day you're running uphill, but most of your time training for this is just in the mountains with really cool people. And so I think the combination of like community, the mental toughness aspect of it, and just spending time in a beautiful place, like, yes, it's painful, but like, how can you not love that? Like, it's so cool.
I'm going to rewind just a little bit, talk a little bit about the progression of running. you see a lot of people start running on a sidewalk or maybe on the side of the road. And then eventually maybe some runners become trail runners. And suddenly, instead of just a smooth surface, they're dealing with tree roots and boulders and rocks and sand and mud and slippery things. And it uses a whole different muscular system to run on such uneven, variable terrain. But then people like you take it to the next level and say, we're going to run over the roots and the rocks and the mud and the sand and the boulders, except we're going to do it straight up. And we're going to do it for thousands of vertical feet. So, I mean, to me, that's a marked difference from the person that likes to jog in the park to the person that can actually run on these surfaces and on these steeps. And you already mentioned to us, you ran in college, you skied and ran in high school, and then after college you started doing more of this trail running. Can you maybe give some advice to people who would like to make the transition? They're like, yeah, I've enjoyed running, but running in nature instead of on the sidewalk, now that sounds fascinating. What should people look for to do it safely and to do it successfully?
Oh, that's a good question. I think my first advice is don't count yourself out just because you haven't done it. Doesn't mean you're totally capable of doing it. I think advice for getting into it, and I think this is good advice for anything, is ease your body into it and don't just jump in completely. Just do a little bit every day and mix it with other forms of moving your body. And so if you're not used to, if you have a background in running on the roads, I think it translates pretty easily to the trails, and you might run a little bit slower, but it's kind of intuitive in a way. Just learning how to run over rocks and roots and trees. It's not really that different from running on the roads. You're engaged in a different way, I think, your brain is. But yeah, I think it's just like starting anything else. Don't overthink it. Don't count yourself out, but also ease yourself into it so you don't hurt yourself right away. Take it in bite-sized pieces.
Well, I know a little bit from experience that when you're running on a smooth surface and you've gone the distance, your body falls into this, how to say it, a stride that could be a little bit lazy, your muscles feel tired and numb, and your dexterity doesn't feel at its peak. But if you get that way in a terrain where you have to step over rocks and slide on sand and, all that sort of thing, it sounds to me like that could be really challenging. So you have to build up all that dexterity, I would think. Mm-hmm. How long? Well, having grown up in Crested Butte, you probably already had that kind of built in. But do you have a feel for how long it takes people to develop the musculature to be able to run on really uneven surfaces?
That's a good question. I think it's a little bit different for every person. There's, I feel like, two types of people that were on the U.S. team. They're either people like me who were lucky enough to grow up in a place like Crested Butte or in Colorado where you're just used to that technical terrain and it's almost you learned how to approach that terrain and it's kind of second nature and you developed it from a super young age. The other part is people who grew up in Kansas. Like one of my teammates who runs for the same brand grew up, had a track and cross country background, grew up in Kansas, and then didn't really approach trail running until after college. And she's one of the best in the world. And I think just is a natural athlete and had the skill set from running and just kind of developed it over time. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your recent trip to Europe. And you went to Spain for the World Championships, but that's not all you did there. But let's rewind. What happened in Spain?
Yeah, so flew out to Confranc, Spain in the Pyrenees for the World Championships. And just what an incredible experience. I feel like in a time in our country where politically everything is so polarized, it's just really cool to take a step back and realize we're not that different. There were people from, I think, over 30 countries were there. And you just realize, we're all not that different. And to be in a place where so many people are speaking different languages, but have this shared passion was a really, really cool thing. And so the uphill event was the first day, and just the race was so cool. My family was able to come out, and I became really good friends with the girls on the team and on the U.S. team. And so it was just a really special moment from achieving a big milestone in my running career, but also just community-wise, and got to spend and share that with really cool people and also meet a lot of cool people.
Hey friends, here at the Adventure Sports Podcast, health is really a priority. That's part of the reason why for over 10 years we've been encouraging people to get out there and have some fun, because when we become more active, it makes us healthier. Our focus on health is one of the reasons that I'm excited about today's sponsor, True Diagnostic. Did you know that your calendar age doesn't always match how old your body truly is? Your biological age, the age of your cells and organs, is actually the number one predictor of your risk for serious diseases like heart disease, cancer, dementia, and more. That's why learning your biological age can be truly life-changing, and that's exactly what the True Age test from True Diagnostic helps you do. It's a simple at-home test. You just prick your finger and then use the provided packaging and a prepaid envelope to send the sample in for testing. No doctor's visits required, no labs, but you'll get great information that can help you to be healthier and understand how you're doing with your own health habits. Now, I always joke that I'm 23 years old. You've heard me say that forever. Obviously, I'm quite a bit older than that, but I'm curious to find out what my biological age is. It's kind of eye-opening when you learn that your biological age, if it's just 5 years older than your actual age, your risk for major diseases can go up by 30 to 50%. That's kind of a wake-up call. But due to epigenetics, and this is the part that really inspires me, up to 90% of biological aging is driven by lifestyle. That means the way that we eat, move, sleep, manage stress, all these things play massive roles in how fast or slow our bodies age. That aligns with the Adventure Sports Podcast so much. So I'm taking the test. I'm excited to find out the results. And in addition to my biological age, True Diagnostic also provides a personalized report that's full of science-backed steps that we can all take to slow down aging and improve our health over time. If you care about protecting your health and want to find out what your real age is, head over to truediagnostic.com and use my code ASP to get 20% off your entire order or subscription. That's truediagnostic.com. Use ASP at checkout to get 20% off. Your future self will thank you. Oh man, this sponsor just keeps reminding me what a lousy shopper I am. The holidays are almost here, and if you still have names on your list, don't panic. Well, guess what? I have a lot of names on my list. Uncommon Goods makes holiday shopping stress-free and joyful with thousands of one-of-a-kind gifts you can't find anywhere else. And so I went on their website just to look around, and lots of original things. Here's one that caught my eye. I really like weather. I like nature. They have these teardrop-shaped glass globes that have a material in them that looks like bubbles, but they change depending on the weather. So it helps you to forecast the weather. And so it's kind of a beautiful item you can set on a shelf, but as you look at it, it can also kind of give you a feel for what's going to happen outside. So I thought that was super cool. Uncommon Goods has all sorts of things like this that I normally wouldn't find in the standard department store. That's the point. I also like the way that their website is broken up for people that you're shopping for. You can click to shop for mom, or to click to shop for dad, or kids, or book lovers, gardeners, mixologists. And when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And here's my favorite part. With every purchase that you make at Uncommon Goods, they give back $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. And they have donated more than $3.1 million to date. So don't wait. Make this holiday the year you give something truly unforgettable. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/ASP. That's uncommongoods.com/ASP for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. You know, it's always about the people in the end, I think, whatever the sport is. It's the human connection that makes it so special. What was it like? Just describe what you went through on this race from the starting line to the finish line. Just take us there so we can like ride on your shoulder and see what it was.
Yeah, so the start, I like I mentioned earlier, it was about 6 kilometers of racing, which is like 3.8 something miles, and just over 3,000 feet of climbing. The first, I'd say, half mile maybe was on a road, and I mean, you got to remember, there's people from probably 30 countries here, and 4 people per team, and so there were a lot of people at that starting line. It was really hectic. And so just trying to find positioning was probably the hardest part of the whole race. In that first half mile on the flat road went by so fast, like you're running low 5-minute pace on that flat 5-minute mile pace on that flat road. And then it bottlenecked, like just onto a single track. Right. And there's videos online of it, but people, like the first maybe 10 people got through fine. And then slowly people just started piling up, and it was so chaotic, and I got caught up in the bottleneck. So it was I wasn't in the position I wanted to be in, and it was a huge like moment of, okay, calm down. Yes, you're not in the spot you want to be in, but like don't mentally unravel and let this ruin your whole race. After the bottleneck, the rest of the race was pretty much on single track, which makes it hard to pass. And so there were a bunch of really narrow switchbacks up for probably the first mile, like up to about 1.5 miles on the course. And then it opened up a little bit. There were still switchbacks. And on this section, it's probably like 15% grade, a little bit less than, I think the course had an average of 30% grade. So there were some parts that were steeper and then less steep, but all of it was pretty like runnable at a very slow pace. And got above tree line at about like 2.5 miles, I think, and it just opened up and was beautiful. And I didn't get to see the whole course before I raced it. And so, I mean, talk about kind of what I alluded to earlier, like, and why I love this so much. Like, you are in so much pain, but then you look up and it's just beautiful, like mountains you haven't seen before. Like, we're lucky in Colorado with these beautiful mountains, but Europe has some pretty special stuff in their mountains as well. So just absolutely beautiful and put a smile on my face for sure. And then I moved up. I was racing with Jess Brazeau and Hillary Allen, 2 of my other uphill teammates, and we were all kind of right together working as a group and just trying to pick people off and move up towards the top of the race. And that was really nice, like having familiar faces in the chaos of just people everywhere. And it was just so loud. Like, unlike, I feel like in the United States, like endurance sports like mountain running, nobody knows about it. Nobody really follows track and cross country or road running either. Like, running's just a nerdy sport in the United States. But in Europe, these people, like the people live for this. Like, you're running the last mile of the course and your ears are ringing. It's so loud. And there's 3 people deep
because
on
of the
either
crowds,
side,
the spectators.
because of the spectators, and like 3 people deep on either side of you, lining the course the last mile, just like screaming for you, and like obviously so passionate about it. And it's not like spectating sports in the United States where you're like, oh, I'm going to go to a soccer game and you just walk right into the stadium. These people hiked up, like all these fans hiked up 3,000 feet and 3 miles, like at like 5 a.m. to watch this race. And they're just so into it. And it's not a nerdy sport there. It's like really, really cool to them. And it's so cool to be competing in a place where there's so many fans that think your sport is as cool as you do. And so I think that energy, like when it was just so painful, the last mile, and I mean, the last mile, there's pictures, and I think it was over 30% grade. Like, there's no way you can physically run it. Like, I felt like I was sprinting, and my mom has this video on her phone, and I am moving so slow. Like, I don't know how anybody can move that slow. But I was, like, absolutely redlining. Like, the tank was empty. Yeah, so the last part of the course was really, really hard. But, yeah, just a beautiful day, a really cool experience to have collectively with a group of people, and to be able to have a milestone like that in my career that I've achieved, and also just to share that with a lot of people was really, really cool.
Oh, how fun. So how did Team USA do?
So I think we got Our team in that event, in the women's uphill, got sixth overall, and it's typical like cross country scoring. So for people who don't understand or aren't familiar with that, that's just you get a point assigned to your place, and the lowest scoring team of the top like three people on each team is the winning team for that event. And so the women got sixth in the uphill event, and then overall Team USA was the third country in like the entire World Mountain Running Championships. So there's 4 events total, not just the uphill event, men and women combined. So they also kept track of that, and so that's pretty cool.
So there's the uphill event, which you ran in. There's the up-down event, and you told me all this ahead of time, so that's why I know something. There's a 50K and an 80K trail race as well. So what you're saying is that Team USA, if you combine all the races, men's and women's, came in third.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So who came in first?
France did.
France, right on.
Yeah, which makes sense because
second?
you look at them. Yeah. I don't remember who's second.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I should know that, but I don't.
Well, that's so fun. It sounds like a remarkable time. How many times have you been to Europe? Was this new for you?
I kind of started trail and mountain running professionally at the beginning of this calendar year and had never been to Europe before. I went to 2 races in Austria, one in Switzerland in July of this year. And so it was so nice to get that international racing experience under your belt because it's just so much more competitive than races in the United States, and also just learning how to deal with the variables that inevitably come with international travel. It was really nice to have that under my belt before the World Championships. So I guess hadn't been to Europe before this year, but then I've since been to Austria, Switzerland, Spain, Italy, and I guess I did a run from like Spain to France and then back into Spain. So I guess I can say I've been to France too, but yeah.
It sounds so fun. So tell us about your competition in Italy.
Unlike, I'd say, like track, where you have the pillar or like the key race in your sport that's just the pinnacle of everything, the Olympics or the World Championships, trail running's a little bit different. You have a lot of different circuits that are sponsored by different brands or entities. So the World Championships was sponsored by like the same World Athletics organization that helps with the Olympics and track World Championships. But there's a lot of other brands, so like Solomon or Hoka will put on, like major shoe brands will sponsor other series or events. I participated in like the Golden Trail World Series this year. And so there's like 6 or 7 different races that happen from like April to September all over the world. I think 2 in Asia. This year, the series was China, Japan. There was a race like on the Great Wall of China, which is so cool, like to do that. I didn't go, but you only had to do like 3 races to qualify for the final, which was what I did in Italy after the World Championships. But there's just this whole tour, Asia, Europe, United States, all over the place. There was a race in Mexico as well.
Sydney, it sounds so cool what you've been doing and what you've learned about this new scene, U.S. mountain running team, all the things, the Olympics potentially coming up. How fun would that be to be able to be a part of that? But I'm kind of curious, how has this impacted your life thus far? I know that this was your first World Championship, but still, how would you say that it's impacted you?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's impacted me a few different ways. I think its first way is just like the community I've built in the trail and mountain running world is unparalleled. Everybody is so willing to share information and experience, and you should go to this race to qualify for this race. This is the way I fuel. This is the way I train. And it's just a very inclusive community that has added so much to my life. I mean, I've met people in March and April of this year, and they've become some of my closest friends in the span of a few months just through the travel and the racing. I think second, it's given me the opportunity to travel the world. I'm sponsored by Brooks, like a shoe company, and run for the
Right.
Brooks Trail Runners team. And they've given me the support to be able to travel the world and put a lot more energy into this than I was able to previously. And I think just, yeah, having the means to put that much energy into this that I'm really passionate about has been really, really cool and totally changed my life and kind of, yeah, what I put my energy towards. And it's pretty cool to be able to put a lot of your energy towards something you're so passionate about and is like your play hobby outside of work. Yeah, just also giving me the opportunity to travel the world. And yes, we're racing. And like when you're racing, the eyes on the ball and you're 100% present with racing, but I've been to 5 countries this year that I don't know when I would have traveled to otherwise, and met people from across the world and like seen places I would have never seen otherwise. And when something you're so passionate about, like I love racing and competing, but when that can bring so much travel and life experience into your world as well, it's just so cool. And I have so much gratitude for like everything that it's added to my life.
I love it. I love it. That's one of the things we always come back to on the Adventure Sports podcast is it's life impacting. When you take up some sort of I hate to use the word hobby because I think that doesn't do it justice. It's more of a passion or even a lifestyle, but that is, oriented toward adventure, whatever your sport is. It seems like it just gives back so much when we invest in that. And I can see that, in you. Where do you want to be in the future? What are your thoughts and dreams and goals for this?
It's so hard to answer that question, and I don't want to set limits on myself. I mean, if you would have asked me this question 6 months ago, my answer would have looked totally different. And qualifying for for Team USA to compete at World Championships has truly like changed my life in so many ways, and also the goals I have in this sport. I think no matter where I go or what I do, I never want to lose my love of the sport and being in the mountains. And I always want to make sure, it comes from a place of joy and I never lose sight of that. But would love to just travel to new places and just keep progressing in the sport. Would love to improve my downhill running. Would love to qualify for the next World Championships in South Africa in 2027, and would love to be top 10 in the world at that if I'm able to qualify. But yeah, I think at its core, just never lose sight of why I love this and why I want to keep doing it, and never lose my like fire for competition that I have. And I just like love competing so much. And never get so wrapped up in the results in the competition that I forget to like look up and see the beautiful places I'm in and the people I'm sharing these experiences with.
Yeah, super cool. So how do you train? If you're going to continue in this sport and advance in this sport, then that means you're going to have to be on it. So what is training for uphill racing? I just wonder what that looks like. Yeah,
I'm like an uphill specialist in the sense where that's what I'm best at. But a lot of the races I do also involve some downhill running too, because there's way less uphill specific races. So I guess when I'm like training for an uphill specific race, I do try to run as much vertical feet as I can. I'll crank the treadmill up to 15% and just go really slow so I don't have to go drive out to a mountain all the time. If I'm like rolling in after work and it's 5 p.m. and I need to get a run in, it's easier to do that sometimes. But I guess my training looks different depending on what time of year it is. This winter, I'm wanting to incorporate a bunch of Nordic skiing and skimo, just as like different movements. You're using different muscles, and that really helps with like you're saying, the agility of jumping over rocks and roots and all that. I do 1 or 2 like longer runs a week, so 2 to 4 hours. And then I'll do like 1 to 2 speed workouts a week. And that can be on a track or uphill, on trails, on a treadmill. I do have a speed background from the track and the road, so I do like to keep that skill somewhat sharp still and practice that a few days a week. Usually running most days, or cross-training or biking or skiing other days, and then spend some time in the weight room doing yoga, you name it, just moving my body in as many different ways as I can. And Yeah, it's a balance of just planning my training around really cool adventures in the mountains. Like, oh, I want to go run Chavano this weekend. I want to go run this mountain this weekend. And then also like, okay, I need to work this skill or sharpen this element of my training, improve my turnover. I'm going to do this specific workout this week.
Well, you already mentioned the Imogene Trail or Pass and also the West Maroon.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those sound glorious to me. I've not done either one. I've climbed the Maroon Bells multiple times, but always from the other side. I've never done the Pass. Just so people get a feel for what it's like. If you were running from, well, essentially Schofield, right, over West Maroon Pass, down toward Maroon Lake and Aspen, what is that like? How far is it? How steep is it? What's the scenery like?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think this is pretty representative of like the average run I do in a week. Like I'll do 1 or 2 of these runs in a week when I'm training for a big race in the summer. So West Maroon Pass is just over 10 miles, I think between 3,000 and 4,000 feet of elevation gain. It starts in Crested Butte, Colorado and goes to Aspen, Colorado. Crested Butte is, I think, around like 9,000 or 10,000 feet where the trail actually starts, just outside of Gothic. It's a pretty steady like incline, and then you kind of reach this saddle 3 or 4 miles in, and you just look out. It's on the tip of my tongue, but you just like look over to the other side, and it's all downhill after you get to that saddle into Aspen. And you have Pyramid Peak on your right, and then both of the Maroon Bells on your left, and it's just this gradual descent into like, I think it's Maroon Lake. I don't know what the lake's called. The bells, for like people listening to this who don't know what the bells are, you do know what the bells are and you've seen pictures of them. You just might not put 2 and 2 together. They're just the most iconic, cool pyramid looking mountains. You'll see like a picture of them in DIA. It's like when you Google Colorado, that's the first image that pops up because they're just so iconic. Right. And there's like a lot of times in the year, like snow on top, and it's really rotten rock. So the formations are just like eroded in a really cool way. And they're, just like finishing runs in front of this crystal clear blue lake and then some of the most iconic mountains in the U.S. It's really cool.
Okay, so you said it's like 10 miles. So you run to Aspen. How do you get home again? You turn around and run back?
You run back. And that way's harder because you're going uphill for 7 miles and then just downhill for like 3 or 4 on the end. Yeah, that was like my first big trail run I ever did with my mom. And I remember like walking the last 2 miles, and I think I was like 13, 14 years old, and she was just like feeding me candy, like trying to get me to the back to the car on the other side because I was so tired.
It's just such beautiful scenery through there. And I have been on top of that pass because that's how you climb the southern of the Bells, Maroon Peak. Mm-hmm. Is you go up to the saddle and then you continue on up the peak. So I've been up the other side to there, but never from the Schofield side. So very, very, very cool. And Imogene is another scenery-wise world class. It's beautiful up there. What is that one like?
The San Juans are just such beautiful mountains. Like, it's hard to even find words to describe it. Like, I remember, because the race goes from Ouray, Colorado to Telluride, Colorado, and I remember both years I've done it since the first year I did it. I remember sitting and eating dinner in Ouray the night before, and the sun's, like, setting over the Box Canyon, and the mountains just look so tall, and you're like, how am I going to run? Like, how do people run over that? Like, that is just so steep. It's hard to even, like, fathom moving that, like, on that steep of terrain. But you do. And I just remember getting to the top, like, the top of the pass, my legs were hurting so bad. But then, like, same thing. People are cheering for you. People are at the aid station in costumes. And then you just do this downhill. It's, like, I think 10 miles uphill, 7 miles downhill. And just coasting down the downhill into Telluride on this mining road and just looking out over Telluride and just seeing those canyon walls, and just Telluride is just so beautiful. And I like at that time of year they hold that race. It's the beginning of fall, so the leaves are starting to turn and you have like a little bit of that cold fall air, and it's just so beautiful.
Very, very fun. So this is not just an athletic event. This is an athletic event that takes you to some of the world's most spectacular places. How fun is that?
I'm really, really lucky and so grateful for it.
It's so cool. So if people want to get involved in this type of mountain running, any recommendations for them? How can they learn more?
Yeah, I think it's becoming more and more common to find like run clubs and run groups. So if you don't feel comfortable going out by yourself, there's lots of social media is a really good way to find run clubs and run groups and in more like mountainous places. I want to say like Bend, Oregon has good trail running run groups, but that's a really good way to meet people and build community and go out from people. If you're coming from not knowing anything, like go out with people who know what they're doing and learn new trails and stuff. I'd say get a good pair of shoes that works for you and doesn't hurt your feet. And yeah, the hardest part is starting, and then just get out there and don't lose sight of just the beautiful place you're in and how lucky you are to move your body in a beautiful place and connect with people and use it as a way to connect with people. I think run clubs are a great way to start, and then you can go on the internet or go on YouTube and find races close to you that are just iconic, or find a place you've always wanted to visit. And if it's mountainous or not mountainous, there's plenty of cool trail races on coasts too, but I'm sure there's a trail race, sign up for it. Like, why not? Jump in and see what it's all about.
And how can people learn more about the U.S. Mountain Running Team?
The U.S. Mountain Running Team has an Instagram. It's a USA Track and Field branch of USA Track and Field. So anything on that website. Also a good way is to just follow athletes that have been on the team through social media. And then there's recaps of all the races. And they did such a good job filming all of these races in like the most remote parts of Spain through like Starlink and people with cameras and stabilizers on mountain bikes. So really good recaps of the races as well on YouTube. So go check that out.
Oh, that's awesome. And how can people follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Sydney Petersen 33. And yeah, I think that's my main form of social media and the one I update the most and probably the best one to follow me on. And I compete with Brooks, so follow Brooks at Brooks Trail Runners on Instagram. You'll see a lot of me and also my Brooks Trail Runners teammates who are incredible humans and way better at this than I am. So yeah, give them a follow as well.
Okay, and Petersen is not Petersen and it's not Peterson, it's Petersen. So Petersen, is that right?
Yes, I mix like all the different ways of spelling Petersen into my own way that nobody else spells it that way. So,
so we can find you.
If you can't find me, you're probably spelling it wrong.
Well, Sydney, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed visiting with you, and I'm jealous. I would have loved to have done this. And honestly, while I still climb mountains, running on them is going to be, I don't know. I hope I get back there someday, but that may be a challenge. So anyway, I just think it's so cool what you do. And I say more power to you. So thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm honored to be on such a cool podcast with such incredible guests. And yeah, thanks for chatting.
The Adventure Sports Podcast community, such great people. I'm so honored to have been a part of this. So everyone, maybe this is a sport that you would love to do too, but whatever it is, make sure you do get out there and have some fun.